welcome back to the 80s Slashers YouTube channel. In this video, in light of the holiday season that is fast approaching, we will be taking a look at all of the Christmas slashers from the 80s, and I'll be ranking these films in the order, of my preference. Which ones I like, the best, and which ones I, don't like as much. Now, strangely enough, there weren't a whole lot of slashers that I would classify as Christmas slashers during the 80s. In fact, I only have a total of 6 films that meet the criteria. So when you think about it, there's 10 years in the 80s, and of those 10 years, there's only 6 films, so you didn't even get one a year. So it's too bad, because it's kind of a fun little subgenre within the 80s slashers. So I wish there would have been more. Now, there are a couple of films that do take place at Christmas time, but just the way they play out and the way they're structured, I wouldn't classify them as Christmas slashers, because they don't really try to capture that Christmas feel. There's the films such as the Dorm That Dripped Blood from 1982 and Offerings from 1989. Again, they're films that take place near or on the holiday season, but that's not the primary focus. So the 6 films that we are going to talk about in this video are from 1980, To All a Good Night. Also from 1980, Christmas Evil. From 1984, Don't Open Till Christmas. Also from 1984, Silent Night, Deadly Night. Then from 1987, we have Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. And then finally, from 1989, we have Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, Better Watch Out. So, yeah, that's, it's kind of a fairly interesting list of films, because they're, for the most part, all 6 of these films are fairly different types of slashers from one another. Yeah, so, alright, so, with all that little introduction out of the way, let's just get right into the rankings. So, let's start this off with, number 6. Alright, so coming at number 6, we have Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, Better Watch Out from 1989. Now, this is the only film on this list that I would say I didn't like. The biggest issue that I had with this film is that it's just kind of boring. Boring, flat, dry. It just seems nothing really happens. It seems, I don't know, it just seems everything about this film is flat. Like most of the kills are just kind of flat. The story's flat. The music, there's kills that occur in this where there's no music happening, and it's odd. It's just, I don't know, the whole film just doesn't really fit the genre too well, in my opinion, of course. Now, another bad thing about this film, in my opinion, is, of course, it has bad acting. Not all the acting is bad, but for the most part, it's not great acting. The premise to the film is kind of silly, and I found just not very good. This is kind of like a supernatural type of slasher, and the supernatural elements in this film are just kind of dumb. And it's too bad because, the killer in this film is played by Bill Moseley, who's, kind of a horror icon at this point. And he's kind of wasted, He um I don't know, he's just not a great killer in this. He just they didn't give him too much to work with, unfortunately. And another thing, like I said, there's not a lot. The kills, like I said, the kills are really flat, and like there's very few that are on screen, and the few that we get on screen, they're kind of anticlimactic. There's just not a lot going for this film. It's one of these films. I was just looking at my watch the entire time, just seeing how much longer it is. It's that sort of film. Now, the few good things I'll give this film, just so there's something here, is there, um, after the kills, there's some decent gore, like, of the after effects. Like, you don't really see much of the kills, like, because they're not on screen, but, you see some of the dead bodies lying there, and so there is some good blood and gore, a little bit. It's fairly decent. And this film does kind of have a fairly good, like, a Christmas vibe to it. Like, they try to play up the Christmas elements a little bit here, so that's always nice. But yeah, overall, Silent Night, Deadly Night 3 is it's just a boring slasher. It's not one of those films that, it's so bad, it's good. It's just kind of a bad film, in my opinion, of course. So yeah, so that's what we're gonna have at number 6. So let's move on to number 5. All right, so coming at number 5 from 1980, I have To All a Good Night. Now, this is kind of, first off, an interesting note about this film. This is the film that I consider to be technically the first ever 80s slasher. This was released in January of 1980, almost 4 months before Friday the 13th got released. So this is, I know there's slashers before this, and there's, but in terms of the first, slasher that was released in the 80s, technically, from my perspective, this is it. So kind of interesting. But the film itself it's just all right. I don't know, like, it's similar to Silent Night, Deadly Night 3. It's also a little slow and boring. Not as bad as Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, but it's I don't know, it's just there's nothing too exciting I found with this film. Now, I should say, of all the films on this list, this is the one film that is I found to be like a borderline Christmas slasher, just because it didn't have a super, like a great Christmas feel to it. They had a Christmas theme in the title, so it's kind of hard not to. And there is Christmas stuff in here. There is like a killer Santa, like, the killer's dressed up in a Santa outfit sometimes. So it definitely is a Christmas slasher, but it just, I don't know, it kind of more feels like a slasher that's set at Christmas as opposed to an actual Christmas slasher, if that makes sense. What this actually is it's more of like a sorority house slasher. That's more the vibe I got. It's just the sorority house slasher happened to occur at Christmas time. So yeah, I don't know. This is like I said, it's probably due to the film was made and filmed in California. So there's no snow. There's like palm trees and desert. For me, like a Canadian, that just doesn't ring true for Christmas time for me. I'm sure people living, further down south, that's the norm. But for me, it just didn't have that Christmas vibe, like with the snow and all that good stuff that you typically see. So yeah, so I don't know, maybe that's a personal bias issue for me, but I don't know, I just didn't have that feeling. Now, this film does have some pretty decent kills, some pretty good nudity, and like I mentioned earlier, there is a few fun scenes with like a killer Santa running around. So overall, like this isn't a bad film. It's one that's not terribly exciting, you know. Just like I said, the a little slow paced, a little boring, not the greatest Christmas feel. Basically, those are the things that had me ranking it, near the bottom of this list. So, yeah, coming at number five, "To All a Good Night" from 1980. All right, let's move on to number four. All right, so coming at number four, we have Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2 from 1987. Now, this is a hard film for me to rank. I struggled with where to put this, because if you're familiar with the film, the first 40 minutes basically of the film is recycled footage from, the first Silent Night, Deadly Night film. So that's not great, it's not fun to watch, it's just, especially if you're really familiar with the first film, you have to sit through this first 40 minutes to get anything new, any new action. And there is some, it's not all recycled footage, there's some new footage, but it's basically just a like a someone interviewing someone else. They're locked in a room and he's asking them questions and he's retelling the story from the first film. So it's, not great, not a good start, But then once the second half of the film starts and we start getting some new footage, um, that new footage and that part of the film, it's clearly a terrible film. It really is. It's not a good film, but it's one that is so much fun. It's just one of those. This is a film that is so bad that it's good. It's hilarious to watch. The the main actor, the main character is Ricky, who was the youngest brother in the first film. He's all grown up now, and the actor who plays Ricky in this film is terrible. Terrible actor, but hilariously terrible. So fun to watch. Yeah, it's just there's something about his performance just over the top and just it's just you can't look away. It's one of those one of those films. Now, there's some really great kills in this film as well. The ones that stand out, there's a really fun umbrella kill. Someone gets killed with an umbrella, which is ridiculous. There's like someone gets electrocuted with like a car battery, which is fantastic. And then of course, everyone knows the infamous, garbage day scene, which is which is just it's great. It's fantastic. So yeah, the the first part of this film, obviously retelling or showing the recycled footage, has a great Christmas feel. Um, it's fantastic. There's lots of good Christmas vibes going on, but unfortunately, the second half of the film with like the new footage for the sequel here had barely any Christmas feel to it. There's parts when Ricky's dressed up in a Santa suit, but that's about it. There's no it doesn't feel very Christmassy at all, which is too bad. So, this is definitely a weird film. And like I said, it's really hard to rank uh because of it, but I I have so much fun with this film that's the reason why it's ahead of, the other two films that we previously talked about. It's just they were a little boring, and even though this is kind of half a film, it's just more fun, and that's what basically what this list is about, is which of these films I enjoy most, which do I have, which am I gonna want to watch more often at Christmas time, and Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2 is one I would definitely watch more than Part 3 and To All a Good Night. So yeah, that's why it's coming in at number four. All right, let's move on to number three. All right, so coming in at number three, from 1980, we have Christmas Evil. Now, this film has an amazing Christmas feel. Really good. It's one of those, it just has that early 80s charm that, that's usually typical from this period. But it's like a Christmas film, but it's a Christmas horror film, you know? There's like stuff at stores, there's Christmas parties, there's Santa Claus, there's presents, there's little kids looking for Santa, there's stuff up Santa up on a chimney, on a roof. There's just Christmas throughout this film. It just it's a great one to watch during the holiday season for sure. It really puts you in that Christmas spirit mood. Now, again, this is another slow burn type of film that it kind of focuses more on the descent into like madness, like a study of mental illness, as opposed to the typical slasher formula. In fact, the first kill in this film doesn't happen for like 50 minutes. Like, so you're watching, the main character, his slow slide into mental illness, and then the killing starts, and there's only really two kill scenes. Like, more than two people get killed, but there's basically two scenes of death, which is not great for a slasher, but it's a good film. It's a really enjoyable horror film, and that's how I would kind of describe this. I would say this is more of a Christmas horror film that just happens to have some slasher kills within it. It still fits within the genre, but it definitely leans more towards just a regular horror film. But like I said, this is a good film. It has a great Christmas feel. It's just a little different for the genre, but it's one I like a lot. So yeah, coming at number 3, Christmas Evil. All right, let's go on and take a look at number 2. All right, so coming at number 2 from 1984, we have Don't Open Till Christmas. And this is probably the biggest surprise for me that that it's ranked as high as it is. But I really like this film. This is, if you haven't seen this, definitely check it out. There is some caveats with that. We'll get to it in a bit here. But yeah, if you don't know, Don't Open Till Christmas it's a British film. It's a British slasher, and you can't say we don't have too many of those, which is cool. And it's great because the London feel is fantastic. We see a lot of the streets of London, like the underground, the underground, department stores, apartments. It's a fantastic setting for a slasher film, just because it's in London, and it's unique. We haven't seen that too often, so it's unique in that regard, and I love it. Now, the film itself, it kind of plays out like a police procedural, but it has uh, very strong slasher elements. It's 100% a slasher film, but it just happens to be set within a police procedural. A serial killer is loose, and there's police officers trying to track him down. The kills in this film are great, really great. They're varied. They're very unique. You get some. There's some unique kills. There's one of the scenes is death by I guess people call it castration. So I don't know if everything down there was cut off, but yeah, somebody gets killed uh like that. So, and it's pretty brutal. It's pretty squeamish, especially if you're a guy watching it. It's pretty squeamish. But yeah, it's stuff like that. It's unique. It's different, and not every kill is the same. So it's great. Pretty good gore. Now the issue here is that this film got cut pretty bad by I guess the censors or whatnot. So you definitely need to check out the uncut version. I think there's like an extra like 2 minutes and 13 seconds or something like that. That are it's basically of the gore and of some nudity as well, I think, that has been taken out of the film. So you have to watch the uncut version. But when you get that, it's the gore is fantastic. It's really good. Lots of blood, like really unique. And like I said, with the nudity, there's also like a ton of pretty good nudity. Um, yeah. Now, in terms of the Christmas feel, again, this film feels great. I really enjoyed the Christmas feel. It feels like it was actually filmed at Christmas time. Like you walk in the streets of London, and it just feels like it probably was. It probably filmed at Christmas time because the streets look like they're all decorated up, and yeah, it just feels like you're immersed, in London, 1984 at Christmas time, and it's great. The premise of this film is pretty fun too. There's nothing elaborate, but basically there's a killer on the loose, and he's hunting and killing down people who are dressed as Santa. And over the Christmas holiday season, there's tons of people dressed as Santa. Like they're all over the place. So there's no shortage of victims for this killer, and it's great. He just walks around and yeah, he's killing people, killing Santa. So it's really fun. Now, this film actually has, because of the kills and because of the nudity and because of just like you're really seeing a lot of the streets of London, it really has that gritty, sleazy feel to it. It's funny. This film, I would put this in a very small group of 80s slashers. There is Maniac, which is like the American version of the sleazy, gritty 80s slasher. There's the New York Ripper, which is the Italian version of that type of film, and this film, which is like the British version, in terms of like the sleaziness. So if you like, Maniac and New York Ripper, for the tone of the film, the type of kills, like the mean spiritedness and the sleazy sex and that kind of thing. This film is kind of on par with those. It has that tone. I'm not saying it's as good as those films, but it kind of it matches, if that makes sense. So, because of that, I loved it. I love that, that gritty feel. And another thing, this film kind of like, again, kind of like the New York Ripper. It kind of has some giallo elements in terms of its storytelling, the way like the twist, the reveal at the end, the way the story plays out. There's definitely some giallo, and it's a European film, so it's not surprising that there's some of those elements mixed in here, and it's yeah, it's great. I love it. So, yeah, Don't Open Till Christmas. Like I said, really surprising film. Um, it's great. It's a sleazy film, has great kills, some good nudity, fantastic setting, a great Christmas feel. It's great. I really like this film. Really surprised me how much I like this film. And like I said, just make sure if you want to check it out, you try to find a version, the uncut version. It's pretty important because the cut version is they take a lot out of it, which is too bad. So definitely be on the hunt for that. All right, that's number two. Let's move on to number one. All right, so coming at number one, of course, from 1984, we have Silent Night, Deadly Night. Now, this film, without a doubt, in my opinion, is the best Christmas slasher of the 80s. It's not even close. This film just has it all. It's, there's an interesting story with like a really good setup, like a backstory. You get to see, a Santa Claus massacring basically a family in front of the children, and then of course like the children grow up to be crazy and damaged and have psychological trauma, and then they go on and start killing themselves. And the Christmas time, it triggers this because they saw Santa kill their parents, and it's just the whole backstory is great. The setting is fantastic, not just like obviously the Christmas setting. We get scenes in like an 80s toy store at Christmas time with like G.I. Joe figures and He-Man figures and Star Wars figures, which is fantastic. But the actual, like like the outside setting. It's like in the I think it's filmed in the mountains of Utah. And it's very picturesque, and it's like isolate. The town is isolated. It's like a little, one street type town. It's fantastic because a great setting in the wintertime, snow, people sledding. It's great. Amazing kills. So many good kills in this film. Has really a lot of nudity in this film, and it's just like overall, like just the whole Christmas feel is just you can't get a better Christmas feel than this film. It's it's great. Now, this in many ways, this film is your stereotypical 80s slasher, but it's just one that has a strong Christmas theme attached to it, which is fantastic. I just I don't know. I just really love this. Uh, there's something about seeing, a Santa. It's like someone dressed as Santa, stalking a small town, killing people. It's great. It's just a fun. I don't know. Back then it caused a big controversy and caused a big stink, but yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. And of course I have to talk about like the very thing. This film also stars Linnea Quigley, who is one of the top screen queens of the horror genre, not just 80s films, but especially 80s films. But yeah, she has a fantastic scene in this film. The antler scene. It's infamous. It's one of the best kills in the whole genre, and it's mixed with nudity with her. It's fantastic. This is a classic film for a reason, and this is the only film on this list that I have in my regular Christmas film rotation. Like we all at Christmas time we all watch the same films, like your Home Alones, your Christmas Vacation, Christmas Story. There's all that stuff. But Silent Night, Deadly Night is, for me anyway, it's right in there. It's just, if you want to watch a comedy, you watch, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. If you want to watch a horror film, this is my go-to. It's kind of ingrained in me at this point. I just absolutely love it. So yeah, coming at number one, for me at least, it's no surprise. It's Silent Night, Deadly Night. All right, so yeah, that's it. That is my ranking of the top six Christmas 80s slashers. I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's kind of fun. I went back and I rewatched some of these ones, and there was a couple of these first time watches for me, and it was great. Building up to the Christmas season here, and I was getting to watch some of these. It was fantastic. I was so glad to revisit and watch some of these films. It was a good time. So I recommend, if you guys haven't seen any of these ones that seem interesting to you guys, go ahead and track them down, watch them, and yeah, I hope everyone here has a really good a holiday season, Merry Christmas, whatever you're celebrating. It's we're getting close to the end of another year, so thanks everybody. I'll have another video out before the end of the year, but I just want to thank everyone for contributing to the channel, watching all that stuff. It's really appreciated. And yeah, like I said, I hope everyone has a good holiday season. And yeah, I'll look forward to making some more videos in the new year. But like I said, there will probably be one more before the end of the year. All right, guys, that's it. So yeah, all right, until next time. See ya.